game week, how's it feel to be preparing for real football time?
Well, it came fast. It always does. It feels great. I think towards the end of camp, the guys, they start to get tired of going against each other. Coaches, same deal. You start to, know what the other team is doing all the time. It's at a good point. Able to pop on an opponent's film and go out and practice against different stuff. So we're excited for it.
Just talk about finalizing the depth chart with any real tough choices.
Yeah, there was more competition this year regarding the depth chart than we've ever had. There's been some guys this camp, Rich, that have moved ahead, and then later on, a week later, the other guy jumps them. There are certain positions where we're going to rotate players, and there might be someone who's disappointed that they're not starting, but you can only run 11 out to start the game. But there'll be a lot more guys used throughout the course of the game because of that. And I think the competition brought out the best in a lot of people. I think a lot of guys needed to be pushed. And, you're going to see it too deep, but then you're going to see, as you watch Saturday and going forward, one, it could change who's going in first. But you're going to see multiple people playing at a variety of different positions, whether that's the defensive line. I feel confident rolling in some different guys to play the offensive line if we choose to do so. In the defensive backfield, I think there's the wide receiver room. You're gonna see more guys play this year than you have in the past from us because of the competition and depth at certain positions. Now, some you won't. Some it's going to be one guy, and we'll go from there.
Is Emmett going to be the starter?
Yeah.
And how much? We heard he was really pushed by Castellanos this year. I mean, you got a real backup there? Or
yeah.
The two guys.
Yeah, Emmett will start. I thought he had a good camp. I'm really glad we have Thomas. Thomas came in a short period of time, learned the offense. I mean, he didn't really get here until after spring ball. So shorter period of time, getting to know the players, getting to know the playbook. It's a lot different, the offense he's running, than what he was used to running. But wow, did he do a great job of not only getting to know his teammates, showing some leadership, but at the same time, grasping the playbook, the concepts. He's a very talented quarterback with a very big future.
Any idea or not? Well, I'm sure you have an idea, but you ready to announce captains yet? Or?
Yeah, we did. We voted for the captains, so I'll give those to you guys here. Donovan Ezraku, Vinny DePalma, Christian Mahogany, and Pat Garrow. So we had the team vote, and those were the top vote getters, which is a good mixture. You got a younger guy in Donovan, and then you got some older vets. And then I think with Christian getting voted, it kind of shows his maturity, as a football player and as a leader, sitting out all year. But those are four really good football players, great leaders and great people that will represent us in a very positive way.
Offensive line, you mentioned rotation. Obviously, you want that continuity with the five. We talked about it every freaking day last year.
Mm-hmm.
But you almost want to rotate guys this year just to keep everybody fresher?
Well, if you can. You'd like to have continuity on the offensive line. So I think the way we start, I think we'll play most of the game that way. At the same time, if you got your sixth and seventh guy and it's close, and you can continue to develop them, especially if they're young, that way you're building towards the latter part of the season, and you're building a little bit towards that player's future. Just like any other position, I think if you can do it, I think it's a positive. So we'll see. We'll see how the offense feels, and we'll make our decision on that as we get closer to the game.
What's Bryce Steele's situation?
Yeah, Bryce right now is dealing with a health issue, and when he's ready to really talk about it in detail, I think we'll get that out there. But for right now, out of respect for Bryce and his family, I think it's best that we will leave it at that. So obviously he will not be playing in his first game this year.
Actually, what it really was who will fill in,
yeah.
who won.
Got it. So
for that.
So right now, Vinny and Cam, they'll be the two guys that go out. But then you have JB Blackwell, and you have Owen McGowan. So you got two guys there, whether we go base and have three linebackers in the game, or whether we go sub defense, have two linebackers in the game. You got four guys that we feel pretty good about, and then there's some guys below there that are kind of chomping at the bit to get in the two deep, but that will be the two deep as we go forward.
Defensive backs in particular, how excited are you about that group? We talked about the depth this year and how hard were some of those decisions as well.
Yeah, they were hard. I mean, if you look at the corners, Elijah Jones, in my opinion, has had the best camp that he's had. Playing on the outside, playing on the inside. Amari Jackson is a guy that I felt would have started last year if he had stayed healthy. We started him against Clemson. Alex Washington comes in, and he's out there battling every single day. You got Cheek, he's back. He was out for a good part of the season last year. And then you got some other guys at safety too. Cole Batson kind of took over the free safety position last year. And then I've already talked about John Pupil, what he's been able to do in a short period of time. And then Victor Nelson is another guy that deserves to play. So I just named 3 safeties right there, and those 3 deserve to play, and they're probably going to all see the field. With the corners, I've been places in the NFL where you rolled guys, and I've been places where you didn't. So if we feel we get those guys and we want to get experience and build depth, there's other guys that can go in there as well. Even a guy like CJ Klingscale's really jumped out, and he's a name that probably hasn't been mentioned very much, but talk about a transition from year 1 to year 2 and how much somebody can really step up and change. That was really impressive, the camp that he had. And then Correa, our transfer from Arkansas, he's another guy. He's battling right now to be the starter too. So those are decisions that we'll continue to make. We have a pretty good idea right now, but I want to compete throughout the practice week too and see where this thing ends up. Who's going to go out and practice Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday and continue to get better and give us the best chance to win. We're going to play those guys.
Gotten any kind of a look at Northern Illinois?
Yeah, I've gotten a good look at Northern Illinois. Coach Hammock's done a nice job. If you really look back, they're MAC champs in 21, and they have a huge year. And what he did to flip that is really impressive. Last year, he's got a lot of guys back, but then he loses his starting quarterback, who I think is a really good football player, and he loses his best wide receiver. So with some injuries, especially with your quarterback, they kind of took a step back last year. But now he has a quarterback back, and he has his wide receiver back. I think Rocky Lombardi's a really good player. Obviously, he was a Power 5 player coming out of high school. Went to Michigan State, played at Michigan State, and then as a starter at NIU, he goes out and he beats Georgia Tech. He does a pretty good job versus Michigan. So he's played in big games, and he's a really talented player. If you look at his stats from 2021 to 2022 in the limited games that he's played, completion percentage went way up. He's got a big arm, really, really big arm. Can make all the throws to the field, which a lot of quarterbacks can't. I mean, he can go hash to outside the numbers. He's got a really quick release. He sees it. He seems to have a good sense with where he's going with the ball. He doesn't take a lot of hits or sacks, and he's got a veteran offensive line in front of him. I respect the offensive line coach. They play really hard. They play well together. They know what they're doing. I think the center's a really good player, and all those guys are returners. So, there'll be continuity. He's got his team back that took him to the MAC championship game. A lot of people get caught up in looking at record from the previous year. Well, this is a different team than he had when they won 3 games. He's got his quarterback back. And then he has, in number 85, Rudolph, one of the better receivers in the MAC conference who didn't play last year. So I think they're a really talented team. I think the running back, number 1, is a really solid player. I know they lost one back in the transfer portal, but both he and the guy who transferred in from Iowa are 2 good backs. Tight end's a solid player. They had a transfer tight end that I believe came in from Howard that looks like he has size and length. So this is a good offense, which to me is led by the line, the quarterback, and the wide receiver. Defensively, I think up front is their strength. Their defensive tackles, I think it's number 1 and number 8 are very active. Their nose and their 3 technique. And then number 6, their safety. Kind of reminds me of the guy from NC State, flying around, making plays. It's a good team. And it's, again, if you just look at their record last year, you might feel otherwise, but you can't do that. You got to turn on the tape and watch the tape and figure out why. And them coming here isn't going to be a big deal. Like I said, they beat Georgia Tech in 21. They've played Vanderbilt very close, and they played Michigan at Michigan. So this is a well-coached team with talent. And like I said, that quarterback, he's a Power 5 quarterback, clearly.
Game day operation, just for you personally and the team, you changing anything this year, or was it just business as usual?
For me, yeah. I mean, I think I've changed each year, and I try to get better. Each game, I try to, do some things differently. I'll be on the field. I'd love to go up in the booth, got to see the whole game. But just the familiarity with being a head coach, knowing where to position yourself to get a timeout. I can't stand where I like to and watch the defense 40 yards down the field because I got to be ready to call a timeout. But yeah, I'll make adjustments and tweaks as we go. We got some new coaches. We're going to send some different guys up in the booth this year on defense that we haven't in the past. But we worked all that in scrimmage, so I'm excited for it. I trust the staff. They've done a good job.
Play calls, are they gonna be on the field or in the booth? Both sides.
We'll probably have Shimmy will probably go upstairs, and we'll keep Chud on the field, so you got a good complement there. And then on defense, I'll do the same thing. I'll put Sean Duggan in the booth and keep Azar in the field, so we'll kind of have it balanced out. Coach Turn will probably go up to the booth, which will be different. I trust his eyes up there, and I think he can have a big impact on the special teams with that, as well as being able to see a lot on defense and special teams from the booth. So we're kind of going 1-1 on each side to balance it out better, if that makes sense.
This last thing for me, Alex and Pat, they're like number 2 and number 3 returning pass catches. How much can you expand their role in the passing game this year?
Yeah, I think we utilize the running backs in the pass game, whether it's emptying them out and sending them on routes, or whether it's a check down. If the offense is giving us if the defense is giving us soft coverage, we've got to check the ball down. It's important for the quarterbacks to hit those guys. But yeah, those guys give us weapons that they're not just going to line up in the backfield and run the ball. We got to be able to move them around.
Was it equal between Jeff and Emmett, or going to the backs, or was Emmett a little more concentrated on the backs?
You mean with Phil and Emmett?
Yeah, I mean Phil and Emmett. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it was pretty balanced.
Okay.
Again, it depends what kind of defense we're getting. Are they going to play man? Are they going to play zone and leave voids in the underneath coverage? So I think it was probably pretty balanced. I'd have to look at those numbers to give you the real answer.
No, I don't need it, but I was just curious.
Last one for me, kicker, did you make a call yet, or is that gonna be a competition this week too?
You'll see it in the 2 deep. We got a pretty good feel. I really liked what the kickers did the last 2 days. We were really accurate. So you'll see that when the 2 deep comes out. I want those guys to make sure they hear it from us rather than hear it from me online. But I like the competition that we had. I like guys are pushing each other, and that's going to be an important part of our game.
You guys get practice